Welcome to The Next Man Up, where we explore the misconceptions and paradox around modern masculinity. Join me on my quest to seek the truth through unfiltered conversations with the men behind the masks, so women can better understand men and men can better understand themselves.
Love and sex are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can occupy the same space, but they also don't have to. For me, what is still exciting about sex after all these years, both on and off camera, is connection.
Aaron, welcome
Hi.
to the Lion's Den. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Aaron, or some people know me as Small Hands. I am a adult actor, performer, musician, producer, DJ, a creative soul.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Awesome. That's why I wanted to have you on, because I think you represent what is conventionally seen as the antithesis of like the manosphere, these days. And yet you are living this like optimal life where a lot of men would aspire to lead a life like that. But I saw an interview with you, I think it was from like 3 years ago, where, let me see, I have the quote right here. Where you said, I don't even care about being a man. I just want to be a good person who gives a shit about masculinity.
Yeah, I stand by that.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you? What does masculinity mean by definition?
I mean, to me, the parts I like about masculinity are things like confidence, being comfortable in the skin you're in, having like a strong compassion, like kindness with strength at the same time. To me, those things are, and those aren't even masculine. I guess I don't care about masculine. I guess these are just things that I like in humans.
Yeah.
And that I like strive to sort of achieve as much as I can. Growing up, I was never like an alpha type male. I was kind of awkward, and it wasn't like I was getting the girls or anything at an early age. And I kind of just would look at more traditionally like masculine, guys and, men. And I was like, well, there's something different about me. I'm not exactly like that, but I'm like, some of this is kind of cool, I think.
That's how I feel about feminine women. I'm like, something's different about me. I'm not like that.
And so what I did was, as I got older, I just kind of like handpicked the parts of the masculine sort of energy that I liked.
Yeah.
And a lot of the shit that I thought was just stupid or toxic or ridiculous, I just said, well, no, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be like that side of things,
Yeah.
And so with that, I just try to be myself. And if it's masculine, cool. If it's not, that's cool too. I don't really care.
Yeah. Well, I think what's so interesting about you is your humility and your warmth, and which of course begets trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably an imperative part of why you've had the career that you've had, which is, again, counterintuitive to what we're told of, like, if you look at pickup culture or something like that, pickup artistry. And it's all about,
and that's
the
a very
nagging
different
principles.
type of masculine energy. Is that's a different
if
school
you want
of
to call
thought
it toxic, if
whatever.
you will.
I mean, it's like a pickup artist type or one of those types is just, they see the world very differently than I do, and I don't know like that it's necessarily right or wrong. Obviously, I don't agree with most of those sort of schools of thought, as far as like, instead of like, even like the term like a pickup artist, like what are you, a magician? Like, what is this?
But even those that don't identify with being all the guys have read those books. They all know the terms, and they would never cop to it, right? So that's the weird part, I think, in society that we're at now. The pickup artist culture was like really prevalent like 15 years ago. And then with Tate, it has this negative connotation. So like men are no longer aligning with it, but those tenets still kind of stick.
Well, a lot of that is, to me, in my opinion, guys who don't understand desire or attraction. Because if you can be desirable to someone else, like sexually, romantically, friendship-wise, whatever, you don't need to like trick them or dominate them or possess them in that kind of way, because you're like, there's many ways to get to to the end, you know what I mean? And like, if your only way to like have sex with women is to like trick them or like flash a bunch of money or like say a bunch of possessive shit, I don't think that's as cool as just being someone that is like that they just want to be around, you know?
Right.
And so I just have always wanted to be a person that people like to be around.
Yeah. And what do you think those desirous qualities are in anyone, in men, women?
I mean, again, I don't think it's too gender specific, but I think confidence without arrogance is attractive. I think people who can exude the fact that they're comfortable in their own skin. I like people who are funny, who have a fucking sense of humor.
Yeah.
A little bit of depth is nice, you know. It doesn't have to always be, you know, some deep, intense philosophical debate, but I think if you can go there with someone, that creates like a more intimate connection. And then just being open and free with your sexuality and like knowing what you want, what you like, what you don't, you know, what your boundaries are. And that all leads back to ultimately just someone being as authentic to themselves as they can. And I think if you're doing that in a way that's not harmful to others or yourself, then that's probably pretty attractive to most people, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear about being the son of a preacher and how you went from that and like being a relatively late bloomer, so to speak. I think you lost your virginity in college.
It was like I was 17 and she was 18, I believe. And then I just had like girlfriends, you know, for a few years. Like when I was like 23, I had sex with like 2 people.
Yeah.
And they were both like long-term girlfriends. So I wasn't, you know, out just getting laid all the time or whatever. That didn't happen until I was in a band and then I went on tour. And then I discovered there was all kinds of opportunities to have sex. So that was a fun way to play catch up a little bit. But I don't know, growing up in a very, very conservative Christian household, my sex education was none, other than maybe some cassette tapes, you know. With
cassette tapes?
Yeah, I was born in the
education?
80s, you know?
I was 88. I mean, that's I don't remember sex education cassette tapes.
Well, you obviously were not as indoctrinated into the cult. So
what happened? How did you learn?
I think the company was called like Focus on the Family or some shit like that. And I don't know, my dad was super awkward about all of it. And so he just handed me these like Christian tapes on like adolescent sex, and basically all it was screaming at you to not masturbate, to not have sex, to not do, you know, you're going to hell, you know, that just terrifying, you know, to listen to these tapes. And so I kind of had to learn on the streets, you know. So really I learned my sex education came from the women that I ended up having sex with. You know, I would just learn from them, and you know, that's really how it's been my whole life, I guess.
Did being raised that way though change your relationship with sex, where you think you rebelled?
No, I don't think so. It definitely, especially when you're like a, you know, a teenager, adolescent who's just learning about their own body and things are starting to change and happen, to be like told that if I like masturbated, I was going to burn in hell forever. Like that's fucked up to do to like a youth who's developing. And so I carried a lot of weird shame around, I guess, when I was a teenager, because I was a horny guy, like like a lot of teenagers, and I would like, you know, I'd masturbate or whatever, and then I'd be like crying and like praying to God to like forgive me. Like it was so fucked up. Now how
did you then let go of that shame? Because it seems like it's still a big leap from like these tapes and the shame for even masturbating, not even watching porn, but just for masturbating, and then to like being in a band and then porn.
Well, as I you know, throughout like high school and as I was getting older, I just started to see so much hypocrisy in the Christian religion, and being like that my dad was like working for the church. I was there like 6 nights a week. I saw behind the curtain. I realized that it's I don't know how to say it like delicately, but
just don't.
It's a fucking scam. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's complete nonsense. And nobody is practicing what they preach.
Yeah.
You know, and so by the time I was 18 and I was moved out of the house, I had already just taken Christianity and threw it in the trash for me because it was just, it did not serve me in any way.
Did your dad know that?
Yeah, by that time he knew, and this was way before I was in porn or anything, and so we never really got along. There was always friction because I would point out things and he wouldn't have an answer, or he'd just pray about it, like the non-answers, and I really didn't accept that, and I didn't like that, so I kind of had already checked out from religion at a pretty early age, and then just being in like playing music and being in bands and being on tour, that started to give me like a confidence I had never had before. I had also never had girls kind of like come over and want to like hang out or talk to me or whatever. So all of that was kind of new attention I was getting, and it was cool. It was like felt good, and so I kind of just organically, I guess, grew my sexuality throughout like my 20s. And by the time I was because I didn't start porn until I was 30.
Yeah.
So by that,
late bloomer. By all
yeah.
standards.
So by the time I was in the adult business, I had already like traveled the world. I'd played, in bands. I'd done a lot of like kind of cool stuff, and my mind was pretty open at that point. So it wasn't too big of a stretch to start doing porn, although it was never my plan. I didn't aspire to be a male porn star. My girlfriend at the time, my wife was a big director and a big star already, very famous. And at some point, she just kind of wanted me to help the family biz out because she owned a production studio, and so it was to me it was never supposed to be this big career or anything. I was like, oh yeah, I'll hop in some movies, for you, that you're directing, and like until my next tour or whatever, until the band, until I get in this band or whatever. And the music stuff was kind of plateauing for me at that point. I just couldn't seem to find the right band to be in, and then simultaneously I was just doing more and more porn to kind of help out. And a couple years went by, and all of a sudden I had like fans, and it was this whole thing, and then I don't know, 11 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
So it all kind of happened in a very odd way. Like it wasn't planned at all. Yeah.
You didn't, I suppose, have a second to kind of sit back and be like, this is crazy, until you said a few years in, you kind of split. You were like, how did I land here? What's my identity, my other interests, my music?
And initially, because by the time I was pulling my dick out on camera, I had already been on set a lot because of my girl. I was like helping, I would do paperwork. I was PAing kind of, just to like help out. So I saw how it worked, and I saw that, and I'm like, this is crazy. These performers are like next level unicorn humans, and I didn't view myself like that.
Right. What makes a unicorn human? What does that mean?
I mean, porn stars are special in like the best way. I mean, there's such a beauty and like a feral vulnerability to do this.
You have to be, right? Like that's what I've definitely noticed with, which is different than the prevalence of content creators, as we were just speaking about. With actual porn stars, they've had to do a lot of like deep work, and it probably didn't start out that way. They probably got into it a little blindsided, but the level of vulnerability, because they're quite literally stripped down.
Yeah.
Like,
but you also have a great confidence in most of them, or at least they know how to pull it out. You know? And there's like a performance element. There's, it's a lot of porn stars, for example, are great actors, great singers, a lot of talent.
Yeah.
But I don't think everyone in Hollywood could do porn.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
like,
given what we're seeing in the media these days about intimacy coordinators.
I think we're like such special humans and to be celebrated.
And in terms of navigating relationships, you're granted an opportunity that most people would never be granted in a lifetime that like is so expansive, like addressing things head on, like jealousy and, you know, safety and consent and these things that that polarize most conventional couples. Like I'm certainly one of those people that although I've, you know, had a life in sex work, it's still really scary for me because I date in the real world. I'm not just dating in industry, right? Unlike porn, like there's not really prevalence of male sex workers. So it's how did that show up in a way that like was a positive for your relationship, for your marriage? How was that a positive? Like what did you learn to navigate through the example of porn?
Honest communication is very key. You know, at the beginning, because she had been around a long time, I would have questions because this isn't like kind of a new thing for me, you know, and she was always very good at addressing those questions and kind of like always just a transparent line of communication, because the goal was never for us to be like jealous or upset or anything like that. And fortunately, you know, neither of us are jealous people like that or possessive in that way, which is you kind of have to be that way. And if you're going to be in this business, if you're a jealous person, it's going to be a tough time for you in porn. So people who are more inclined to not have those kind of feelings,
what about emotional jealousy? Did that ever
look, we're all
up?
human. There's going to be days, there's going to be moments, there's going to be certain people that might start pulling at you a little bit. And again, it goes back to communication and also the fact that we know there's a start and an end. You know, there's when the camera's rolling and then when it's not. And, you know, then you go home. You know, like this is like a job and it's a great job and it's a job that, you know, hopefully every experience is fun and, you know, awesome and it gives you all those things. But like they'll yell cut, you know, we're done. And then you go back to being the normal, the civilian, the normal. Whatever you like. Like when I'm doing like a porn movie, I'm like a superhero version of my real self in those moments. You know,
do you feel like you're literally entering a new state, like another state?
No, but it's like a heightened. It's like me projecting what I maybe wish I was all the time, and then when it's over, well, I'm just Aaron, you know, know, and you know, like Aaron has flaws and fears and insecurities and all those things, but Small Hands doesn't,
right?
You know, not when it's go time, and so the separation is healthy, I think, you know, to be able to turn it on and off, and that also helps with jealousy and things like that. Because if you come home and I'm acting the same all the time like that, like a persona, that's kind of not authentic and that's kind of weird, you know. Like I would want a partner that's a real person, you know. I don't want to date a persona, even though if it's a cool persona, that's fine that it comes out and we can work with that. But at the end of the day, hopefully there's like a level of humanity, you know, that you can access and not lose.
Yeah. So you may have heard me reference, I'm a certified sexologist and sex and intimacy coach for men. So whether it be erectile issues, performance anxiety, premature ejaculation, or repressed desire, porn dependency, disconnection, sexual shame, I help men rewire their bodies and their minds and sex lives through a holistic framework that I developed that actually works. So go to www.coralosborne.com/podcast for more info about working with me and to sign up for access to tools, offers, and insights exclusively for listeners. Sex is a metaphor for how you do life, so master your relationship to it and everything else follows. What would you say, it's interesting, I always like to look at things like jealousy or betrayal or anxiety and dissect till you get to the root fear. And they say there's three root fears, which are death, rejection, and abandonment. What's your relationship with those fears, and what's prevalent for you?
I don't fear death.
Neither do I.
Because I've lived a very great life. And if this all ended like tomorrow, like pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
Abandonment, that's a funny word. Because I didn't really feel abandoned growing up, but I felt ignored, not seen, not heard, neglected, maybe.
So maybe that would fall under rejection.
So maybe that would be a thing that I've had to, not maybe, it's been a thing that I've had to struggle with and work on and try to heal, or whatever you call it, my whole life. And some of those things I think that happen to you when you're young, even if you are pretty healed from them, they're not erased, that you carry some of it with you.
Epigenetics, right? It's a trip, because I think we, and I include myself in this, like have a recognition cerebrally of like the effect, but to deprogram that is like really hard. Like I would hear inner child work and shadow work, and people talk about that all the time. I've worked with like, I don't know, dozens of therapists and alt modalities, but it wasn't until like last year that I really did an exercise that tapped me into that inner child, that shadow. And I'm like, and there's still so much there. So it's the awareness, but then like, what do you do once you have that awareness?
That's up to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, having those moments of like self-awareness, that's like step one, to even just know what the hell is going on. And then step two is to find whatever way it makes sense to you to heal and to thrive, And so I think in some ways, a lot of my abandonment, neglect, I've sort of validated it, because now I get a lot of attention,
right.
And so maybe that was a driving force for why I've always loved to be a performer, an entertainer, a musician. I've always wanted to, like, look at me, and so I got that.
So it's basically like kind of turning your pain into art, right? You've done that in music, and you said to me the other night that you don't write anything about sex. Like music is sacred in that department, and sex is sacred.
Or if I am writing about sex, it's not a happy song. It's kind of like fucked up and weird. And like I don't write directly about sexual experiences or encounters. It's not that I never would, but it's a bit on the nose, and it's also just not what I feel compelled to write about. And I think if you have pain and you don't do anything with it, or you don't get anything out of it, it's just the pain. But if you have pain and then you create something beautiful with it, now you have, like, it was not worth it, but maybe it was worth it.
I think I kind of think it is. Like, and I know that's a hot take.
It's like you wouldn't have been capable or enabled to create something so
Nick
beautiful.
Nick Cave preaches this all the time.
If you hadn't have suffered, in some way.
Yeah.
And so I think pain is kind of necessary.
Yeah.
It comes for us all. We all feel pain at some point. It's just we do different things with it.
Yeah.
And I refuse to let mine just like sit in a drawer. I wanted to like use it,
So how does that show up in your music? And how has it been cathartic for you in that way?
It's almost like if I like write a song that's a really kind of dark, painful thing to get out, it now isn't in me anymore. It's over here in the song. So I can get rid of shit by just creating something with it, and now it sits right here. And if I ever want to access it, I could play the fucking song. I could sing the song, whatever. But I don't have to like carry it around all the time,
Right.
And so it allows me to let go of a lot of stuff.
Right.
And to kind of release a lot of like darkness.
Yeah. You said something really interesting as well about your relationship to sex, and how it's like, I forget exactly how you put it, but it's like a conversation kind of. It's, like another language of sorts, which is so not what I hear, most people, let alone men, talking about it. It was like, oh, wow, that was crazy to get to know you on that level. Can you like explain that to me a little better, of what it means to you, and how, I guess I'm curious as to how it does, it like, you can maintain presence, and it doesn't like deplete you of like internal and, well, I guess some external resources for sure. But like, I want to understand it in the context of porn versus the context of like love, for example.
I think love and sex are not the same. They can occupy the same space, but they also don't have to. For me, what is still exciting about sex after all these years, both on and off camera, is connection. Like the physical act is cool, but that's very that's like base level.
If you take away the connection, it's like, what is that?
And again, it's like getting a massage. Like it feels good, but what is more exciting to me is for those moments when you're locked in with someone and you're like very literally connected by body and by like an energy. I mean, that's like better than, like, what's better than that? Like that's like the best drug, the best high. And the fact that I get to live a life where I can have all these experiences with all these amazing people. It's kind of like mind blowing to me, like that. That I get to just connect over and over again. And sometimes the connection is performative. Yeah. Sometimes it's rough. Sometimes it's romantic, and because connection can mean a million things, but like, to just be able to like get to share those moments with so many beautiful people that's like what gets me excited and gets me going. And like, it doesn't matter if, we're in a fucking gangbang or if it's just Netflix and slow sex on the couch. Like, what I always look for is that kind of moment where I can like be there with you for a second,
Yeah, that's why it's been so fascinating to me, and inevitably why I became a sexologist, because for me, it was like that exchange is the most authentic, raw moment of truth you can have with someone, where it's like you're not wearing a mask, like you're just completely like, you catch those moments, especially like for me, kind of twisted, but like when a man comes, it's like, oh, there's no power play. You've just like, shown me yourself. You've just given this to me, and then we're here in this moment together.
It's a very vulnerable state.
Like blowjobs. Like there's a lot of negative speak that women have around like blowjobs, and it's like they will gatekeep their sexuality, and just similar to how like men will gatekeep their hearts. And it's like if you just reframe them as it can be really correlated with a direct act of like vulnerability to have that, like, this is your mouth that you're inside,
Yeah. I mean, blowjobs are funny. Also, what makes sex hot in these sort of experiences is this dynamic of power play, and it can switch fast, and it can, it's like you may be on your knees sucking my dick, but you could bite down at any time. Like you're actually more in control than I am in these moments.
Like the submissive narrative, right? It's like a sub actually carries a lot more power. They're kind of puppeteer if done properly. There's a lot of misconceptions about what that means, right?
To me, a good dom or a good dominant person, especially in sexual situations, is in service to their sub. It's not what I want, it's what you want, and I'm going to give you what you want, and I know it's like this, and you trust me enough to go there, and because I want so much to please you, then now we have a dynamic, and so I think if you're like a dominant guy, but you don't understand that dynamic, now you're just like choking and hitting for no reason. Or you might not be serving your partner like you think you are.
Yeah. And that's what again, I find so interesting about you is like, you are more like gentle and soft and in person, and then not that like watching you in porn versus like hanging out with you and talking to you versus watching your music. It's like, that's what I love. There's all these personas being exhibited. And this is what I find to be the biggest struggle, is people don't want to accept the multitudes that we contain. And that's why I was so fearful of ever speaking about my experience in sex work, because I figured the rest of me would be written off and it would just be all people see. And honestly, when I was doxxed, like that was what I came up against. Everyone thought that everything else I did in my life, the companies I started, the education, all of that was like bullshit. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, So luckily, like, you've been granted the ability to express all of those parts of you. But does it ever get challenging to, like, do you ever feel like your music career is taking a hit because of porn, or that, people expect you to be a different way in person, in relationships?
Yeah. I mean, all of those thoughts have like crossed my mind over the years, but ultimately, it's like tracing the roots back, It's like, what do I want out of life?
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like I want to be in like a successful band. I want to be, famous. I want to be rich. Everyone has things they want. But when I really break it down for myself, I always wanted to live a life of adventure. Check.
Yeah.
I always wanted to live a life where I was free to creatively express myself. Check. Mm-hmm. And it's nice not to be totally broke, and so I don't think, I think I got what I wanted at this point, like just because maybe the porn fame and whatever outshadows my music stuff, and maybe I wish it was a little more balanced.
But isn't everything, right?
I'm still living the life I always wanted to live. Yeah. And so, I mean, all I can really do is be thankful and be grateful and just keep trying to work hard so I can maintain a cool life.
Right. But that
so I don't care if like I care if I would love for my like music career to grow and continue on that trajectory. And it would be so cool at some point if I was at least known equally for both, if not, one outshining the other. But I'm also fine if it doesn't happen because I'm still doing the thing, Yeah. So ultimately, I think that's all we can ask out of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned the other day that you had like a major burnout that it kind of induced depression like a few years back. Did that have to do with those two identities coming?
It mostly had to do with just at the height of my filming kind of career when I was living in LA, I was shooting 20 to 25 days a month, basically,
how many like hours a day on set is that?
It would vary. I mean, some sets it's a 6-hour day, some sets it's 15.
Holy shit.
There's no SAG in porn, so
Why?
Well, some of the big feature movies get made in a few very long days versus like a 2-week shoot or something,
Right.
Because of budgets. The porn budgets are not Hollywood budgets. And even the big budget stuff, it's a long day.
Yeah.
And I was just becoming really imbalanced because that's all I was doing, like a hamster on a wheel. Just, you wake up, go to set, you fuck someone, you go to the gym, make sure you go to bed on time, make sure you eat right, make sure we're doing our sit-ups and all the things, and there's no break. And that's just not healthy.
And it also is kind of like, it kind of defeats the purpose of what sex is supposed to do, which is like this beautiful artistry of presence. If you're on this hamster wheel, it's like, how did I?
And look, it still was fun. And the moments that were, good when I'm in it, it's like cool, we're loving it. But it's not really healthy just to maintain as a lifestyle, I think, over and over again with no break, no balance because that was also the time where I worked on music the least. I just didn't have a lot of time and I wasn't putting that side of myself forward as much. And, obviously like the money coming in was good too. And that can sway you in a certain way. And also the fear of this could end at any time, like I was like, there's no way I'm going to keep getting booked like this, like at some point people get over it, like they'll find some other dude.
It's tough to say no, it's tough to say no to money. If you're like technically freelance in anything, whether, you're a copywriter, actor, sex worker, whatever that is, and I think in sex work in particular, it is kind of the golden handcuffs because it's like, imagine you were just working out that much. Imagine you too, as a therapist, you're seeing 10 to 15 clients a day. I use this analogy like in Amsterdam where it's legal, the women there in the red light district are making 50 euros per 15 minutes and they're seeing like 15 to 20 clients a day. And that's just like, I can't have that many interactions with friends, with anyone, right?
That's quite the workload.
Yeah, workload, exactly. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to come across like I'm complaining. Yeah. Like I made those decisions.
So then what brought you to that point where you were like, where you kind of split, I guess?
COVID.
Yeah.
Because everything paused for a minute and I was put on a forced break.
Yeah.
And then I had to start just being alone with my thoughts, and like things like that. And so over COVID is when I really was like, okay, I'm like not well. I need to make some changes. And now that I have a more balanced sort of schedule life, I found like that I love shooting again, kind of like I found a new love for it. But it's because I'm not doing it every day of the week, you know?
Yeah.
So now when I do shoots, I'm in a much healthier mental state, I guess, and emotional state. And it's a lot more fun now because I have some balance.
What do you do to take care of yourself in that?
A lot of Stairmaster. A lot of Stairmaster. Core cardio, baby.
Up here?
Well, it's good
Up
for
here?
it's
All of it.
it's good for stamina in bed. It's also good.
Stairmaster?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
You know, you don't fuck with your arms. You fuck with
All
your
right.
hips and your legs and
Right.
your, work out the muscles for the job, you know?
Yeah.
Also, like if your heart rate, if you could run 4 miles on the Stairmaster, you could probably athletically fuck for, an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I should probably lift more weights, but whatever.
Same. I just found out osteopenia. Whatever. Apparently my femur is weak. I'm like, okay, well, that's not good.
We don't want a weak femur.
I know.
That doesn't serve
I'm
you
going to go
in
to
any
Lifetime
way.
Fitness after this.
No, I work out, not like an insane amount, but like 5-6 days a week. I try to eat pretty clean, if there's a movie shoot, the next day, I'm not like going out and getting drunk the night before. I'm going to bed early, kind of normal, just healthy human stuff. And then like for up here, having the balance where some nights I'm DJing, some nights I'm working on my band's, records. Sometimes I'm producing remixes for other artists, and then sometimes I'm fucking. So it's like, that's a nice, more balanced sort of life for me. And so that's kind of how I mentally like keep it all together too now.
Do you have any sort of relationship with spirituality now that you're obviously out of the religious sphere together?
Yeah. I definitely believe that there's something, higher above us, a power. I don't know what you call it. I would really like to believe that we're not just here for a complete random accident. Like I would like to believe in like a purpose, and that there's something bigger than us and something beyond us. I just don't think it will be found in any major religion.
Well, any group think, I have an aversion towards. Probably that's why we find ourselves as the outcasts of society and in the work that we're in. But I think that, spirituality it's been interesting how I've come across it, similar to how I've come across like discovering Tantra, which 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, what the hell is Tantra? Like, fuck off, like eye gazing, or, the like breath work and blah, 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 blah. And then I inadvertently came across it through sex, and it was like, whoa, what just happened? It was like a psychedelic experience.
Okay.
And then that is my tie into like spirituality, which like show me what is possible,
I think, when you're watching someone have an orgasm, you're kind of seeing God.
Yeah.
And so I think like sex can be spiritual, have elements of spirituality. They don't have to be, but depending on the context of the person and the situation. I just think too, like in a romantic way, I would like to think that there's that this means something, or that there's a purpose. And so I don't know if we call it God. I don't know what the name is.
Universe.
I don't know if there's a gender attached to it, but I would like to think there's something out there.
Some of you may have found this podcast through my work as a sexologist. What you might not know is that I support individuals in deepening their relationship to their sexuality. So whether that means working through performance issues, inability to orgasm, repressed desire, low libido, problem sexual behavior, shame, or disconnection from the body, I use a biopsychosocial spiritual framework that I developed in order to help people rewire their outdated patterns and integrate their sexual selves. Because how you relate to your sexuality is how you relate to everything. Go to www.coralosborne.com/podcast for more information about working with me and to sign up for access to tools, offers, and insights exclusively for listeners. What do you think it is about you that makes women trust you exponentially and that makes you so good in this work? We talked about the awareness, the desire piece, but what else is it that you wish like other men would know and in a sincere way, not in a trickery way, like to really connect?
You have to be willing to like let your ego like chill. And you have to be willing to learn. The first time I had sex, I don't think I was very good. You know what I mean? Like nobody is just born innately, I don't think, with this kind of a level of skill, or I don't know what you call it.
I think it's like very little to do. You might fight me on this with the actual skill, like the moves you're making. It's like, sure, that's a piece, but like you said, it's the attuning to your partner. It's the
because
reading
arousal is more than just contact,
and it's so rooted in trust, right? Like really trust, like real, authentic trust.
And so if you like feel safe with someone and you trust them, then you're probably more willing to explore than with someone you don't, So I think if as like a man, if you can create an environment that makes a woman feel safe, then she feels safe to be more authentic and more speak up about like what she does and doesn't want. And maybe she feels safe enough to explore things that she's never tried. And at that point, there's no like tricks. You're just now in an honest, authentic, safe way doing like cool shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's like some magic answer or line I can give. I think you just, have a desire to be like a decent person and have a desire to connect like authentically with someone in a way that's humble.
Right. So you haven't had, I take it, civilian sex in like
decade plus years and years and years. Yeah.
So do you think that would, how would you engage with that if and when the time ever came, or would you have even any interest in doing that? Like, because the rules kind of go out the window of like, trust. It's like you're speaking a whole different language. You're having to hold someone's hand throughout it. But say if you do meet someone incredible, out there in the real world, what does that look like?
I have no idea. I guess I'll find out if and when it happens. Part of it's exciting sounding, because that's like something that's not what I'm, currently for the past several years been used to. Part of it's a little terrifying to me. I don't know. I just think that like navigating, like I haven't like gone on a date or anything like that in like, 13 years. It's like, and the world has changed a lot.
There's apps now.
And I've never been on a dating app ever.
That's amazing. Please don't ever get on.
No plans to.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just have to cross that when I come to it, because I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how we can like master our own, sectors, and then going out there into the real world, you kind of just like white out sometimes.
Yeah. And I think too, because I'm so like trained by the porn rules now, which is like, what am I going to meet someone and ask to see their test results? For safety reasons and things.
This is the like major misconception about all sex work, is like that it's dirty and that it's like dark, manipulative. Again, we talked about this. We both worked in the music industry, which is way more coercive, way darker, and similar. And with sex industry, it's like I would say my friends in my community and adult is like the safest, most welcoming, most warm community of any industry, period. Right?
I mean, I would agree with you. Also on just a base level, like we're getting tested all the time.
Yeah.
And before we fuck, we exchange that. So there's a peace of mind knowing that like, you're good to go, like STI wise, I'm good to go. Cool.
And it goes back to the honesty
and
vulnerability thing.
But if you meet someone like at a bar and you take them home and fuck them,
say
like,
that,
like to me that's wild.
Well, yeah.
Like, it's like no judgment either way, but I feel much more safe doing things like sort of like the porno way,
Yeah.
which is we always get tested. We always kind of know our status, and we're generally speaking only fucking each other who are all in the same sort of safe pool.
Yeah.
And, porn stars too are like generally very hygienic, very clean, like this is like what we do. So, the drunken hookup, at a at
sounds
a bar,
awful.
it sounds awful to me.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah, and then like constant regret or remorse on the partner's part because they're not accustomed to whatever. Or if I guarantee, if you were to ask like any of my civilian girlfriends if she's been tested recently, you get a slap in the face.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is so wild to me.
I feel safe in the ways I do things. And obviously there's no 1,000%, there's no foolproof, absolutely safe way unless you just don't have sex ever with anyone.
Yeah.
But I say that the risks I face are much less than maybe the civilian pool, And I think too, just like having boundary talks, especially if it's with someone new, it may sound odd to like a person.
This should be a show, by the way.
It may sound odd to a person
Aaron
on the
dating
street,
in the real world.
Oh my God.
Just asserting like the consent talks, the boundary talks, like all that, like just with, I would watch.
Well, and then,
teach us all
and then
a few
part of
things.
it though, it's like, that's so
Contrived.
Or it's so clinical.
Right.
But I'm so used to it that it doesn't feel weird to me.
But it's not clinical within your industry.
No,
it would be
exactly.
clinical taking it to the outside world.
Right. If you're like having your first date and you're eating a nice dinner and you're like, so I have this checklist here. What are your hard no's? What are the maybes? What's your safe word? It's like.
And how do you feel in this moment?
So, I don't know. Dating sounds wild. Dating sounds wild.
Yeah. Lastly, what do you wish that more women could know about men in general?
I think they know pretty much most of it. A little patience while instructing goes a long way. I think sometimes it's like you got to play the game to get what you want. Sometimes being like a guy won't know what you like unless you can vocalize it and can say it. So I would say not that women need to know anything about men, but I think if women feel more free, and this goes back to feeling safe, to vocalize their kinks, their wants, their desires, then they can like teach a guy and he'll, if a guy's willing to learn, now you're getting what you want, So as far as like just sexual situations go, I would just encourage women to be vocal about what they're into, what they're not, and don't be afraid to like, if this guy doesn't fit that, there's plenty of people who don't
be afraid of rejection.
You'll find your people who will click with you on that kind of a rhythm, and that hopefully will lead to something really awesome.
How can a woman, and I guess not instruct, I don't like using that word, but like tell a man what she wants in the way that you just said without intimidating him or making it emasculating him? Obviously, your relationship to that is going to look different than most of the men out there, but what is it? What would you like? What is a safe way to go about that?
It's like if you're acting and you don't want to break character. You still might talk in that sexy voice. You still might kind of be sensual in your instructions, or, you know what I mean? There's a difference between going, hey, you're doing it wrong, and going, move over here. Why don't you, I like that. Like they're, be clever with it and like be in character. And then now it's like a sexy instruction, and that will probably generate better results.
Yeah, I tend to find this works for both sexes, of like when you appeal to their ideal sense of self, like, oh, you know what, I love if you were to do this because that's or when you've looked at me that way in the past, or what you like. So then they're doing it aspirationally because you're already appealing to something
positive
that they've already,
yeah. So I think that goes a long way, and I think you'd be surprised at the good results you can get if both people are willing to kind of have those kind of mindsets, and learn from each other too. You know, it goes both ways. There's a lot that you can glean off of having sex with this person versus this person, you know, and maybe because I have a lot of sex with a lot of people, I'm
No
a
way.
bit biased, but I that's also what I give credit to being decent, I guess, at this job is I've just had so much sex with so many people, and I'm always learning a little bit from all of them. And I take that with me, take that knowledge with me, and apply it in the future. And you know, so you're kind of just continually building and growing and building and growing and learning, and there's no real ceiling. You just keep doing it.
Which is, these are like such transferable skills, right? As I always say, it's like, it's never just sex. Like if you're good at sex, that means you're good at communication. It means you're good at all these other things, right? Assertiveness. Like if you're lying about, if you're faking orgasms, then you're afraid to ask for a raise. And it's just,
Or you're a real good actor.
Yeah, yeah. Or you're psycho. Like who knows? Or you're just denying yourself pleasure in everything in life. So it's just, it's never just the thing.
Look, I think faking orgasms on camera, fine. I don't think you should feel the need to do that in your real life, because now you're doing it for them.
It's hard to switch
you know
off
what I mean?
sometimes, though. In sex work, in my experience, that was like really hard to.
Well, there are situations where it's called for.
Yeah.
But hopefully you get some real ones sometimes too. You know.
Yeah. Totally. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
What are you up to now, and where can we find you?
Onlyfans.com/smallhands. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Those are the only platforms. So if you're finding me on some other shit, it ain't
Report.
me. Yeah, I have a lot of imposter accounts and you know, things like that. So Instagram, Twitter, OnlyFans.
What about music stuff? What are you up to?
My band is called Soft Faith. You can listen to our stuff on all platforms, and we'll have an album coming out this summer too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today. You can follow us on the Next Man Up _pod on Instagram, or on YouTube at Next Man Up with Coral. Please feel free to slide into my DMs with any thoughts, feelings, or praise, and let me know who you think should be the next man up.